Welcome to the Great Indian School podcast. We are here at Mayo College, Ajmer, and we have with us Mr. Saurav Sinha, the newly appointed principal of Mayo College. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the podcast. So, where we'll dive into your childhood and your school times, and it's a back to school throwback for you.
Okay.
So, can you tell me a little about your education? Where did you grow up? How was your schooling?
Yeah. My parents are both doctors in the UK. So I did my primary schooling till grade 5 in day school in England. And their plan was to come back here. So they put my sister and I both at Wellham Girls and Wellham Boys. I joined in grade 5. So I was 9 years old, just before my 10th birthday when I joined. And then I kind of grew up there. So I finished my schooling from there at the age of 17. In that time, my parents came back to India when I was about 14 or 15. Then I joined Hindu College at Delhi University, where I studied history. And when I was in second year, by that time, for various reasons, my parents decided that they wanted to go back to England. But I kind of finished my education, my undergraduate education at least in India. So pretty much most of my, I think the stability in my life always has been Dehradun or Wellham Boys actually, because we didn't see much of the town apart from our house. Yeah.
So, you've grown up in a boarding school, basically.
I've grown up in a boarding school, in a boarding, in a hostel, in a college also. Yeah, spent a lot of time as a boarder.
Any particular favorite boarding school story or any myth do you want to break?
Well, I mean, there are lots of myths, but I'll tell you, one of the major myths is that people in boarding schools or children in boarding schools don't get along or have to have some issue with their parents or vice versa, which I think is very untrue, especially in the modern world that we live in, right, where parents often cannot give the time that they would like to because of the compulsions of their job and travel and everything, and because they're nuclear families now.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works out even better if you have a place of stability and you have a loving home in your holidays. I think that works out better. That's a major myth that you went to boarding school. Whereas everyone who went to boarding school actually is much more bonded with each other than those who went to day school. That's my assessment.
Great. So, in the great debate of boarding school versus day school, you stand with the boarding school side?
Well, that's a very difficult one, and I wouldn't go as far as saying that everyone should go to boarding school. I think if you can give firstly, it's a personal choice, right? Secondly, if you can give all the time and attention and care to the child, and the child gets enough time with it, and it's a good environment, and they get all the opportunities, there's no reason necessarily to send it. But I just think that there's no need to paint the other one black either.
Black, yeah. It's not black and white. Yeah.
It's a personal choice, really, depending on a lot of circumstances. I would go on to say that I don't think boarding school is made for everyone either. There are some people who can't cut it, but there are a lot of I always say this. Just indulge me.
Yeah.
I always tell parents who when they put their children in, and a week later they're like, "Sir, he wants to leave," and so I always tell them, I said, if you ask 100 boarders after a month if they want to leave boarding school, they probably say no. And yes, that they want to leave, they don't want to stay. And the same 100 you ask after a year, 99 of them will say they don't want to leave. And that's something I've seen both as a student and as being part of boarding schools on the other side as well.
Nice. So one thing that is for sure not a myth is that you have a lot of fun in boarding schools with your friends. Any particular mischief that you pulled off that you can remember of?
Well, now considering the place I'm in, I don't think I'd want to reveal that on tape as it may be used against me. So as the Americans say, I'll plead the Fifth Amendment.
Okay. So any punishment that you remember of that you got and you still remember it today?
Again, there are so many of them because I always tell my friends that we are the unfortunate generation that when we grew up, the power was with the parents, and now we become adults and the power is with the children. So you pretty much hit around. It was just like you're just walking, enough punishments. But yeah, one interesting punishment was that we used to basically you had to. So our classes block was about 250 meters away from where my house was.
Okay.
So in your fruit break, instead of eating fruit, You had to run, change into your games clothes, come back, and then go run, change, and at the timing this thing. And I remember we used to strategize all kinds of like hide clothes in the middle of the route somewhere, try and change and all that. That was quite funny. Seems funny now. It wasn't
Nice. So, can you describe your school friends gang?
There's so many school friends who are all over the place now. All over the place. Someone's a doctor, someone's a lawyer, someone's in business, all kinds. But it's interesting is that you more interesting than that is you meet people who you don't remember, especially because juniors, seniors often don't remember juniors. Also because if you leave and a guy was in grade 6 or 7, then
You want to remember.
they'll remember you because you may have been the captain or something. And plus, they've changed so much. So quite often, it is not quite often, but 2-3 times it's definitely happened where I've been at an airport or some public place abroad somewhere, in fact, and suddenly someone asks me my name, and I'm like, yes. And then they say that you were my house captain, or I was so many years junior to you, and all that stuff. That's really interesting. The bond that immediately on hearing that you're from the same school, there's
that sort of connection that you
immediately
feel.
happens.
Yes. So we'll play a quick rapid fire, some quick questions. Were you a backbencher or a front bencher?
Backbencher, but I used to do all right, so I wasn't one of those very mischievous.
You were a studious backbencher.
I was okay. Yeah, I mean, I was talkative.
Okay.
I was not really in trouble all the time, but I think I suffered from ADHD in retrospect.
Yes.
I used to talk a lot.
Your favorite subject?
English.
English. And your most dreaded subject?
I still have nightmares about my 12th class physics paper, so I'm going to go with physics.
I think that's one of the very common answers that people were you a sort of a person who was more into co-curricular or more into academics?
A lot more into co-curricular, but I mean, I managed my academics, but I was not really into academics.
Favorite sport? Any particular sport that you played?
Basketball and football.
Okay. So were you you were the house captain as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I was not a great sportsman, but I played represented my house.
Okay.
In the inter-house.
Nice. So were you which school rule did you secretly love breaking? Like sneaking in food or what?
Determined to get me into trouble today, but I'll go with the safe option. The waking up in the morning was always a problem for me. It continued to be for a lot of the part of my adult life as well. So that's the one I'm going to go with. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Were you ever caught cheating in an exam or in a particular test?
Okay. I'll just get my resignation papers and sign them. Again, Fifth Amendment. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So one final question. Any particular book or film that you would recommend the students that they should read or watch?
But there's so many of them, But one of the books which I give often to children when I try to introduce them to reading, the one I've given out the most is The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho. Why? Because it's written like a children's fable. So it's very simple. It's very, but it's if you even forget the metaphor behind it, but it's really a great story of hope being eternal and always wanting what you want, and if you go for what you want, you get it. So that's usually a book which I give because it's easy reading. It's not, one of my favorite book is The Fountainhead, but if I gave that to people who are not used to reading, they'd struggle with it. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for